Greetings from Louisiana. On April 30th, 1812, it became the 18th state to join the Union. With 4.3 million residents, Louisiana ranks 25th in population.
We are a celebratory state. We love our celebrations. You ever been there? You ever looked out over those rivers at night and stuff? Golly, man, how can you not fall in love with that?
In Louisiana, it's the river, the river, the river. We put omega of everything we do, everything we're about, everything we've enjoyed, everything we've suffered. It's the central feature of Louisiana history.
About 40% of all the coastal wetland environments in the U.S. are found in Louisiana. But nearly 30 square miles of these low-lying marshy expanses are being lost to coastal erosion every year. Still, it's a lot of water, which means a lot of bridges. Louisiana has more than any other state. The Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, at nearly 24 miles, is the longest water bridge in the world. Louisiana is the only state that calls its subdivisions parishes rather than counties, a vestige of the old Catholic parishes that existed during French and Spanish rule. Louisiana's history of Spanish, French, Native American, and American influences provides it with a rich culture.
Louisiana is much more like a gumbo bowl of cultures. And the essence of a good gumbo is that each ingredient goes in, keeps its flavor, but contributes to the overall taste of the whole dish.
The Spanish were the first Europeans to come, but they didn't stay in large numbers. Some 150 years later, in 1682, French explorer Robert Cavelier Sieur de La Salle claimed the entire Mississippi Basin for France. He named it Louisiana after King Louis XIV and established a permanent settlement in New Orleans. But the state owes much of its heritage to French settlers who came from Canada, not France.
In 1763, Britain won the French and Indian War in Acadia, which is now known as Nova Scotia. They expelled the Acadians and burned their homes. Some of them came to Louisiana.
Over time, the term Acadian was shortened to Cajun. Today, Cajun culture is a mix of music, language, and especially food.
Being Cajun is probably all about food. Crabs, shrimp, raw oysters, gumbos, jambalaya. We got a lot of pride in our cooking and in our food. We really do. Maybe too much.
Good Cajuns, one of the things you're talking about at lunch is where you're going to eat supper at,
The Acadians were well settled in 1803 when France sold the region to the U.S. as part of the Louisiana Purchase.
When Napoleon sold Louisiana, he didn't sell it for 4 cents an acre. He sold it for 4 cents a gallon because it was the Mississippi River he was trying to keep out of British hands. The War of 1812 from the British side was intended to undo the American Revolution. And in order to control the continent, they knew they needed to control the Mississippi River.
They don't believe that New Orleans is very well protected, so they're very confident that it's going to be a fairly easy job for them to go in and seize it. Fortunately for New Orleans, Andrew Jackson also arrives. And Andrew Jackson was a factor that the British hadn't counted upon.
Jackson's ragtag army, which included Choctaw Indians, French pirates, and black freedmen, was just half the size of the British force. But the strategic use of defensive earthworks and artillery gave Jackson the advantage. On January 8, 1815, 2 large columns of British infantry marched straight at the American lines.
They came across a field that was just a killing zone, commanded by a man in Andrew Jackson who was a really hardcore killer.
Men were being slaughtered right and left. General Sir Edward Packingham, the commanding general of the entire British force, was shot dead, probably about 800 yards from the American line. After that, there was nothing left to do but for the British force to retreat. The Americans carried the day.
In that one battle, the British suffered more than 2,000 casualties. The Americans only had 71.
It ends the war with an unprecedented victory. Jackson saves New Orleans, he saves the river, he saves the state, he saves the Western Republic, he saves everything, saves American honor.
The victory propelled Jackson to the presidency in 1829, and his triumph at the Battle of New Orleans was celebrated nationally until the Civil War, when sympathy for this Southern victory changed dramatically. Louisiana seceded from the Union in January of 1861, and by April of 1862, federal troops had captured New Orleans for its strategic position at the mouth of the Mississippi River. This critical position on the Gulf has always been both a blessing and a curse for Louisiana. Floods and hurricanes have long plagued the state, none worse than Hurricane Katrina in 2005, now considered to be the most devastating and costly natural disaster in U.S. history. But Hurricane Katrina was not without precedent. In the spring of 1927, torrents of rain fell throughout the upper Mississippi Valley and came flooding towards Louisiana. By May of 1927, the lower Mississippi had swelled in some spots from a few hundred yards to over 60 miles. 700,000 people were displaced by the disaster. Nearly half of them were poor, rural African Americans who were sent to relief camps.
The conditions were so bad in some of the black refugee camps, the federal government didn't even want to include that in their reports because it was just too terrible. Everybody's muddy, everybody's wet, everybody's tired, everybody wants somebody to do something for them, and there's Huey Long saying, I have a program, I have a plan, and I know how to pay for it.
Huey P. Long was elected governor in 1928 and changed the history of Louisiana.
Huey Long said everyone was going to be a king. He must have got 99% of the black vote.
He did do a lot of things that to this day are still good, like free school books, built some really fine bridges over the river, but he was known to be pretty crooked.
One of the funny stories about when they put in I-49, I believe it is that it goes like this. And everywhere it stopped was a politician's property.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt thought Long was one of the most dangerous people in the nation. He was dangerous, of course, to Franklin Roosevelt because he was setting himself up, Huey Long was setting himself up to become president in 1936.
He never got the chance. In September of 1935, Huey Long was cut down on the steps of the Louisiana State House by an assassin's bullet. Long's legacy of assistance to the poor people of Louisiana in the years following the flood of '27 was recalled in the aftermath of another waterborne catastrophe, Hurricane Katrina of 2005.
The 27 flood and Katrina have the remarkable similarity that federal help didn't show up on time. It causes enormous suffering and causes an exodus of people in Louisiana. Historians now are calling this the greatest natural disaster in the history of the United States.
It was like a no atom bomb. The destruction, it would take 3 to 4 atom bombs to match the destruction of this storm. I've been in New Orleans for 50 years. This is my home. It can't be fixed. It got to get tore down. It can't be fixed.
Without a massive infusion of federal funds, such as was given to Europe after World War II, the rebuilding will be so slow and gradual that Louisiana will be as it was during Reconstruction after the Civil War.
The recovery from Katrina has been slow, and just like the flood of 1927, Katrina's impact will be felt for decades.
If I were governor and had billions of dollars at my disposal, the first thing I'd do is try to clean that up. You have to restore the confidence of the people, and once you restore their confidence, their soul, their spirit will get in there and they will recharge themselves, and it'll be like we've always known it.
I'm talking about America, sweet America.